Hi YouTube, and welcome back to my Random Thoughts on Thursdays. And this week I want to talk about how answers to complex life questions can't be simple answers. So it shouldn't come to anyone's surprise that I like to debate controversial topics online. Obviously I post plenty of opinions on my vlog here, and I obviously carry those opinions over to various forums and social media sites and that kind of thing. And it's kind of come to my attention, come to my consciousness, I guess, after all these years of debates. I kind of dawned on something the other day, and I just kind of felt like talking about it on my vlog. But one thing I've noticed when I'm debating with people, and especially with people who have very, very strong religious convictions, and I'm not talking about everyone who has religious convictions by any means, but people, specifically people who really believe in the whole Adam and Eve and the whole Noah's Ark, and they may or may not believe in the young Earth theory versus old Earth theory versus like Earth is 4.5 billion years old versus 6,000, depending on your interpretation of the Bible. Then there's also, or Quran. You can actually get the Quran and the Bible actually have a lot of similarity in them. So when I say Bible, I kind of mean all Judeo-Christian Islamic texts, just because there's enough parallels. I mean, the Bible and the Quran and the Torah for the Hebrew Bible is, and they have Adam and Eve, they have Abraham, they have Noah's Ark, they have, all the big major themes are the same, if not similar if not the same across all of those texts. So don't feel like I'm wheedling you out just because I say Bible and you think I'm picking on Christians, because I'm not. I'm picking on everybody. Just to clarify that. Anyway, so I'm talking about the real religious fundamentalists when I'm making these generalizations. Even though, I try not to make generalizations, but sometimes it's kind of hard not to. Because I keep coming across this with so many different people over and over and over again, and I have for the last 20-30 years since I've been debating this topic with people. I just keep coming across this time and time and time again. And the bottom line is there's a lot of complex questions in terms of like where are we from, where do we come from, why do we exist, where does the universe come from, that kind of thing. And, we have, from a scientific point of view, a lot of ideas, and we've actually proven a lot of them. Whether certain people want to believe the proof or not is entirely, a different topic. But, there's everything from, like, the Big Bang Theory to evolution, and there's a whole bunch of things. I mean, there's some things we're still trying to figure out. The concept of abiogenesis, which is how life could could form from what we would consider something non-living to form something living. And that is a very, very complex question. And for the longest time, the easiest answer is because God. Boom. There you go. There's your answer. You believe in that and you can go on with your day and you don't have to worry about it, right? But what if there is no God? That is what atheists kind of conjecture, is like, we don't think there is one. In fact, we're pretty staunchly believe that there isn't one. So, okay, fine. So if there is no God, because God is not the reason for life springing forth, then how, why, where, just the whole 9 yards. And we have a lot of intriguing ideas. We have come across a number of processes that lead us towards the answer to that, although we haven't come to the full conclusion of, okay, exactly how does the process work. One thing is there was the Miller-Urey experiment, I believe, in the 1950s, and they actually had an enclosed environment that they replicated the early Earth environment with the methane, ammonia atmosphere, and lightning storms and water and that kind of thing. And very, very quickly what formed in that water were amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of life. Amino acids, there's 4 of them that make up DNA. And I'm not going to try and rattle off the names of them because I can never remember the right names. There's adenine and anyway. So we know that from very non-living things, we can make the building blocks of life very, very easily. It happens within like 24, 48 hours of setting the experiment up. Boom, the whole water was teeming with these amino acids. It was very, very quick. Now, how do we get from the amino acids to actually building RNA and DNA and having that become a single-celled organism and boom, we have life? Well, we haven't quite figured that out yet. That's still being worked on, and I'm sure that there's a lot of hypotheses and theories out there that I'm not aware of, that I haven't researched. But I know scientists are working on it because it's a big question. And there's no simple answer. I do know that there is a quantum physicist. I think he's from MIT, and I forgive me, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he has also, from a quantum physics point of view, come up with an intriguing hypothesis in terms of why life exists at all, and the whole speculation behind that, because we know from a physics standpoint, and specifically from a quantum physics standpoint, that the entire universe is striving to take order and make it into chaos. Like everything is going towards more and more chaos. It's just sort of a natural process of the universe. It's just how things work and what fuels everything that happens in our universe in the first place. Well, and forgive me, I'm just trying to remember this off the top of my head, but I believe the speculation is that drive from order to chaos, apparently life does that more efficiently than non-life. And so because of that, it's entirely possible that life exists because we are more efficient at creating chaos. Which I don't think a lot of people would argue with that point. Humans especially are pretty good at making chaos. But that's the speculation. Now, to try and apply that to our understanding of life and the formation of life, with the fact that we're still trying to understand it. I mean, like I said, it's a big, complex question. We can't just, say, oh, because of blah, and be done with it, whereas with a religious person, their answer is, oh, because God, and that's it. And I've noticed an extreme reluctance in certain people to even want to try and understand the scientific point of view of any of these complex questions. In fact, to the point where I could literally almost see them go la 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 when I'm trying to explain things to them. Like they just shut down and they're just like, nope, because God, nope, not listening to you. And that's it. They refuse to try and even understand it. Now, I know that a lot of these concepts are difficult to understand. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a mathematician. Math is beyond my comprehension by any means. But I try very hard to understand these things because I'm fascinated by the concepts and things, and I know that because God isn't the answer. I know. For myself. I'm not saying I know like everyone else needs to. It's just, for me, it's my truth. And therefore I need to try and take the time to understand, from the scientific point of view, where things come from. And there's a lot of things I will never understand just because, it's not like I have the time to study paleontology and anthropology and geology and physics and, there's no single person on Earth who will ever understand everything because there's just too much. It's too much to understand. And, please don't misunderstand. Don't think that I'm trying to insult people's intelligences by this. I do understand that some people really struggle with trying to wrap their brains around certain concepts, and it's just easier not to try. And that has no reflection on their intelligence whatsoever. It really isn't, okay? There are some very, very intelligent people who just take... to me, it's the easy way out. It's not necessarily that they're not intelligent, it's just that they have other things in their lives that they would rather focus on. And you know what? Fair enough. Fair point there. Not everyone has the interest or the inclination to try and understand these things. But when they start trying to debate them, and they refuse to listen to my side of the debate, it gets frustrating for me, I guess. So that's kind of kind of part of my point is like, I'm willing to listen to your point of view. In fact, I will often quote the Bible or even the Quran, depending on who I'm talking to. And so often they'll throw, biblical things back at me, but they throw them at me out of context. And I go back and I give them the full context of what it is that they just quoted me. And again, it's the whole la la la, I'm not listening to you. This quote, I'm interpreting this quote in my way, and the context doesn't count in their minds, which again frustrates me. It's like the context should count. And I get frustrated because people do like to, in certain ways, cherry pick what parts of the Bible they want to believe in, what parts they don't. You ask most Protestant Christians, and they're going to say, yeah, the Old Testament is invalid. And I think Catholics as well, but Christians in general, it's like the Old Testament is invalid because of the New Testament. The New Testament overwrites or overrode the Old Testament in general. But then you say, well, what about Genesis? Well, okay, no, Genesis is still valid. And then you start going into specific parts of the Old Testament, and they cherry pick and they say, well, I forget exactly the numbers. I apologize. I'm so bad at remembering things, but there's that one passage in Leviticus that is interpreted as being anti-gay. Well, they're like, oh yeah, that one's still valid, but the one about not eating shellfish, I love lobster. No, that one doesn't count anymore. But the one about gays, that one counts. Like, wait. You don't get to choose. It's like either the entire Old Testament is invalid or it isn't, number one. And if it isn't entirely invalid, then who are you to say that this piece is valid but this piece is not? Like, where does that come from? So a lot of that tends to frustrate me a lot when it comes to these debates and things, especially since there's so much out there that we know and understand from the science point of view that people don't seem to want to understand or listen to, or, and, like people are saying, oh, well, we've never found the missing link. It's like, well, which missing link? There are hundreds, if not thousands, of transitional fossils that we have discovered where we've been able to link between things like the evolution of amphibians to reptiles, and reptiles to birds and or mammals, and just there's all these transitional fossils that we have found, but no, we haven't found a single missing link. Technically we've found tons of them. There isn't a single missing link. There's a lot of transitional fossils. There's certain transitional gaps that we still have in the fossil record. But along with all of these transitional fossils and the fossil evidence and that kind of thing for evolution that we've been discovering, is we have the Human Genome Project and the genome mappings that we've been doing for various species that ultimately have continued to back up evolution. In fact, it keeps strengthening the theory of evolution rather than weakening it. It proves it time and time again rather than disproving it. So we have modern technology with DNA evidence and that kind of thing that's backing up all the stuff that we've discovered. Now, it has in certain cases shown us that we were wrong about certain things. The famous example from my mind is a little creature called the Hyrax, which looks like a little mouse or a mouse or a rat. And it was for a long time classified as a rodent. Well, it turns out it's not a rodent, it's an ungulate. Ungulates are deer, antelope, elephants, etc., giraffe. Those are ungulates, and the Hyrax is actually most closely related from a DNA perspective to the elephant. Who knew? And so that was one case where the genome mapping actually showed us that we had classified a particular animal incorrectly. However, it also reinforced the fact that, not only are humans and chimps very closely related, but then it turns out like the whole bonobo, like bonobos are now actually, I think, classified as a separate species. They were considered a type of chimpanzee, but now they're actually considered a separate species of ape. So now we have, in terms of great apes, we have humans, chimps, bonobos, gorillas, and orangutan. Those are the ones where bonobos and chimps used to be lumped together. And bonobos are genetically even closer to us than the chimps are. And socially, the way they interact and everything, they actually act a lot more closer to the way humans do. And the DNA backs this up. So, bottom line, there is a lot of evidence out there, but it's complex. Complex questions require complex answers, and not everyone's going to understand or know everything. And you can't expect a simple answer. So if you're going to debate and you're going to expect an atheist or a evolutionist or whatever to give you a simple answer to these really complex questions, I'm sorry, it just doesn't exist. And the whole because God, I'm sorry, that's too simplistic, in my opinion. And you know, there's probably a reason why I'm atheist, because yeah, to me that's just way too simplistic. There's more going on than just that, whatever that you want to interpret it as. But anyway, that's enough of my rant today. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate any comments that you leave. And, you know, please, if you do like my video, please like it. And if you don't, you know, thumbs down. I don't care. Go ahead. Lets me know that you at least watched it. Okay, and until next time, take care. Bye-bye.